This is the Crypto Hipster podcast. This is not a traditional interview show. These are perspective driven conversations with founders, builders, and independent creators shaping what comes next. We go beyond headlines, beyond hype, and beyond price to explore ownership, freedom, and opportunity in the digital economy, where builders talk freedom, not price. There's a lot of talk right now about AI transformation, especially in emerging markets, Africa and the global south, and all of it. The global south is a very hot topic. And all of that to me, all what I see sounds really, really great. But I'm not sure that all of it's actually surrounded and grounded in reality. Most conversations about AI start from the top and then trickle down. But this conversation doesn't. This is so let's set this up. So today we're gonna talk about how people actually use technology day to day. And I have Monti and Mithabisi from OrionX here who are building Uhuru inside that reality. And I'm looking forward to this. So let's get into it. I want to start there. Before we even start, to talk about your product, right? I want to talk about when people talk about AI transformation in Africa, what are they consistently getting wrong? And how do they use technology on a day-to-day basis?
All right, that's a great question. I can jump in and I'll let Monty join in as well. So most people in Africa, they use feature phones, low data smartphones, and their primary digital channel is WhatsApp and SMS. That's where they chat with their family, pay for their airtime, run side hustles, even help their kids study. See, the misunderstanding is thinking that digital transformation means replacing what exists with what is already there. But at Orion, like what me and Monty are building, we do the opposite of that. We meet people exactly where they are. Uhuru is for Africa's first LLM that lives natively inside WhatsApp and lives in SMS. It also has a new mobile application that we're going to be doing. It doesn't need no data plan. It doesn't need any airtime per se. You just have to subscribe to your bundle and you're in, and you can use it and consume all the content you need as and when you need it. So that's basically what we're trying to sort of bridge, becoming the intelligence layer and infrastructure layer of Africa.
Yeah, and just to chime in there, you know, what's happening right now when you look across the continent, there is tr the transformation that we're seeing is transformation that's really driven by an agenda from outside the continent. Because when you look at the funding, where does the funding go for AI startups? Currently, it's the hottest AI startups in Africa are language models. So it's translation, it's languages. That's what they're doing, and that's where the funding from, the likes of the big tech companies, that's where the funding is going. You won't actually find an AI startup that's has a large language model and is just trying to develop an AI model that's specifically for the content that's generalized. So a general large language model, you won't find it because it's going to languages. So it's not to solve the problems of the continent. It's actually because once you can speak the language, then you know that adoption will be high and that drives like profits, etc. But does it actually solve the problem? That's really the question.
So what I'm hearing you said is there's a major disconnect between what's happening on the ground and what outsiders are saying should be happening, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
How do you get people to understand and that gap, and how do you get them to help build on the ground? How do you close that gap?
You can go ahead, Monty.
Yes, that's an excellent question. Closing the gap is something that we've been trying to figure out ourselves, talking to customers, releasing product and just testing, etc. Um, but what we're seeing now is uh, we're trying to educate people. So really, when we talk to a lot of the average citizen, a lot of them don't have digital skills. I'll give an example. We trained over 300 teachers in Ghana earlier this year, and we found that some of them haven't even touched a computer in their life, so they don't actually have just digital skills, let alone AI skills, or learning how to use AI. So they see this, they don't even know what AI is. Because AI, when you ask the average citizen here in Botswana, they'll say it's artificial insemination. I got a lot of that in the workshop that we run, which is to do with, agriculture, nothing to do with AI, with the technology. So it's actually just the basic of educating people first, and train them on digital skills to try actually understand what is actually happening with this intelligence that's rolling out across the world. And we have, and now the issues, the outside, their agenda is just releasing products without educating people. Because as long as they use the product, then it's fine. But if they don't get educated, that's fine. But if they don't get educated, then they don't know how to use the product to actually solve the problem, the
Yeah.
problems that we're facing here. So I'll say that's how we're trying to close the gap.
Yeah, and Jamil, like you mentioned earlier, when you said how the outside world is looking at us, they're assuming that we have consistent internet across the whole continent, right? And that's a very first world kind of situation. Data is the most expensive here in Botswana. In the whole of Africa, our country
Number
has
two
the
in the world.
highest. Oh, no, we're number two in the continent. Yeah, okay, number
In
two in
the
the
world.
continent.
In the world.
Oh wow. Well,
Yeah, Canada's number
we
one.
keep adding up on the stacks, but the thing is, the point is data is expensive, and that is our main consumption of internet. We don't. Yes, there's routers. Yes, there's Wi-Fi, and now more recently there's Starlink. And yes, AI uh, communication is aware. Like there's an awareness of there is something called AI. What it does, how it works, maybe a misconception to different people as and when because obviously there's a lot of media around it. There's only like ChatGPT, etc. Those are the names that they hear a lot of. But what I'm basically trying to say is there's a perception that they're going to roll out these tools, they're going to be consumed by Africans, and they're going to be scaled. $20 a month is extremely high for the average citizen because the average salary, the average income, that's 400 bula. That's like about 2 weeks, almost like a month of groceries that somebody could use. That's why Uhuru, very affordable. It's about $3 just to use it. You can consume it on WhatsApp, which is a free data tool when you buy data in Africa. You can just like buy normal data, and it can be consumed on WhatsApp. I mean SMS. That is the bridge that we're really closing.
The web as well.
I do want to get into your use of WhatsApp and SMS, so what you said so far, there's what I see is a disconnect, right? I'm sitting here in the US. Everybody's like AI knows everything about everybody and is an accurate representation of the world. And what you're saying is that in Africa, it's actually not. It's actually people heard of AI. It's not being used. So the AI that I see here, much different than AI that you see. You know, how is our world being misrepresented, and what solutions need to be in place in order to get a uniformity?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, Jamil, like the thing is, the misrepresentation just comes from the use cases that Africans would want to use it for, right? Most people in the US, I think it's like white collar jobs, like accounting, finance, etc., like in office kind of situations. We have a lot of those here in Africa, but most times it's more cattle, like we're farming, we're doing agri, we're doing mining, we're like in that space, right? So our use cases for AI are more like asking general questions how-tos, taking photos of things, like very light use AI, which I think, to be honest and to be fair, globally, that's probably what most people are using AI for. But what real people should be using AI for is for building, creating, analyzing, scaling, producing, manufacturing, creating jobs in the use case of AI. But the problem is there isn't an education that earlier to my co-founder's point of educating people, the diaspora, enough to say, okay, this is how you use it. This is the use cases. You can simply use it like this. This AI is used for this. This one is used for this. Like there's no categorization. There's like this overload. So this overload of information of how this AI does this. This new AI comes out, and the next day it's a new AI, and that already makes people discouraged. And I'm sure that's
Easy.
also a Western issue as well. Like so many things that are coming, everyone's trying to. It's like, what's going on? Let's slow down a little bit. And the biggest issue here in Africa is because jobs is a very big sector and a very big pain point. And the way AI has been produced and introduced, we're gonna be optimized, efficient, and cut off the workforce. Already it's on a high unemployment space. Now we're pushing for something that's going to increase it. So why would I want to learn about something that's going to replace me or potentially destroy my livelihood, etc. So that's really one of the biggest
Yeah.
resistance as well.
I mean, our youth unemployment here is 40%. I mean, in the most advanced economy, South Africa, it's above 50%. So when you hear that something is here that's threatening a job, oh, then government won't be happy, private sector won't be happy, citizens won't be happy. If that's the case. But I think you bring up an important point, and what so 4%, if you look at the global large language models, if you look at the African data in them, with the data set that they've gotten, 4% is African data. So already there's a misrepresentation of African data within the global large language model, which is less than 4% for a continent with 1.4 billion people. So already now the issues as well as the information that is being produced when you use these models is actually not the truth. I've tested it myself in terms of I asked, we have a famous chief from my tribe, and I asked it who's the famous chief, and it gave me some random person's name, created a whole history, justified it and explained and gave it to me, and it was not true. I even vetted and asked the elders. So now I told it, no, that's not true. That's not who is it? Then gave me another name and apologized for for saying the previous one. Still not true. And you see, so because of that lack of information, which majority of it is manual here, it's either manual, like in the paper, or it's digital and not online. So you'll find that it's difficult. That's why we're really like, I mean, I once found the health data for one of the regions here in the country in a random government employee's laptop. Random, like not high level or low level, just a random. And he was the only one who had the data. So it's scattered as well. So because of that, it creates problems of how do we train these models on African information when it's scattered, not digital.
I want to talk about Uhuru because it seems like more people have access to WhatsApp and SMS. You're delivering it through there, right? So you're not using a standalone AI infrastructure app. So on the surface, it sounds like it's pragmatic, but I want to challenge it a bit. So are you actually building new infrastructure, or are you adapting yourself to the limitations of what already exists?
We are actually building new infrastructure, and the reason we decided to go that route is because the current one is actually not solving the problem. Um, it's 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 not solving the problem at all, and we actually need to, for once, Africa needs to have a technology that actually solves our problems. For the past 50, 60 years, have just been consuming Western, Eastern technology and haven't produced much for ourselves, and we're paid the consequences. Right now, we're also doing specialized models, and we started with biodiversity. That's the hot topic at the moment, as said by the World Economic Forum as well in Davos. And right now we have to pay, American companies, German companies to access our genetic data from in a biodiversity database that sits outside. So you only find the species here on the continent as it has the most biodiversity variation in the world. But the data, it sits outside and we have to pay for it. You see, and you see that doesn't make sense. How are we paying for something that's ours? To access it. So hence why we're starting with biodiversity going in there. So we had to think, okay, we just can't do AI models. We have to also do the cloud. We have to make sure it's sovereign and also the AI model because this is we for once we need to be the drivers of our own technology and our own future because the future just doesn't happen. We build the future. So for once, can we actually be the ones building the future? So that's why we took that route.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, are you guys constrained by ceiling here? And when does that advantage start being a ceiling? And then in real time, like revenue or investment, what's it costing you?
Oh, yeah, no, it's a problem, the costing part. And I'll say why. Right now, Africa contributes less than 1% to the global compute. So less than 1% is coming from Africa. Now that means we have to rent these GPUs from outside, in Europe, and that's quite pricey, So uh it's hitting us hard. So we had to really be innovative in the way that we've designed the model so that we can keep our pricing low, and make it still affordable for the average citizen. And we had to be really creative with it, because if you're gonna offer cloud and also offer an AI model, that's gonna come at a cost. But if you innovate and you're creative, you can actually design something that's still affordable for them, but you're not being hit hard in the books in the money side. Um, yeah, so but it's because of, once we have these AI data centers or AI factories, as they call them, here on the continent, the our costing drives down because it's right here. But at the moment, we have to use the GPUs that are outside the continent, and that's the issue. So I think there's only
Yeah.
one at the moment, Strive. Strive is one of the Africa's billionaires. He's the only one at the moment doing the AI data center.
I want to find out then where Hoover actually outperforms what exists today. How do you outperform what already exists today?
Um, we're going to be running a benchmark very soon. And so far, when we did our internal benchmarks, we outperformed ChatGPT and Claude's Opus 4.6. And then just to give a point of clarity, it's not just WhatsApp and SMS, but that's just how we're like distributing it here. There is a web portal, just like your ChatGPTs and your Geminis, that you can log into and engage with it traditionally. We also have like a Google Docs, it's called UDocs, U Sheets, everything, like pretty much all those products on the cloud within Uhuru. So it's like this productivity app ecosystem where people will eventually be able to build websites from WhatsApp. It has a lot of agentic models so that you're able to like ask it to do certain things and it would install what is required, whatever imports are required.
So if I dropped a user and like say I had this user, I drop them in your platform, right? What can they do better than what they can do today? And then what are they constrained by? Like what can't they do better?
Anything that's contextually around African on internet conversation, you can get everything and anything, like generating images that are very high quality. I would say that our image model right now is better than ChatGPT's. It may not be better than Gemini's, but it's definitely better than ChatGPT's one. Um, Coding, like I said, it's as good as 4.6, and 4.6 Claude is, well, now it's 4.7, but 4.6 Claude is considered to be industry leading. So I would say that we're par, yeah, well, yeah, we're par there. And then like just general responses, it's a hit and miss based on how you've asked the question. And like I wouldn't say that we're the best there, but we're definitely in the top three. Yeah.
All right. So I want to shift a little bit because whenever people talk about Africa, they talk about global challenge, they talk about development, they talk about impact, all that, right? So sometimes to me it sounds really good, like too good, like positioning more than like reality. So that narrative that you hear at the World Bank or whenever you hear, how much of that narrative is real and how much of it is necessary to attract funding, tension, partnerships, all that. What's the difference?
Oh, yeah, that it's a complex one because yes, there have been many cases where uh some founders will talk big just for the sake of funding. We have over 2,000 languages. So you can imagine the difficulty of documenting over 2,000 languages in the continent. So, but I would say that that narrative is more of the past type thing. It's not what you're seeing now. Now you're seeing genuine young people really trying to solve the problems of the continent because we have serious problems. We have serious problems and they need to be solved. So I wouldn't say at the moment right now there are these false startups. I would say right now they're legit. They are trying to solve genuine problems because when they speak, you can tell they understand the problem. You can
Yeah.
tell them. You can even nowadays you can now test the product immediately when they speak. So these false companies, it's very difficult to do that now because people want to test immediately. There's no reason why you can't have an MVP. In today's world. So I would say the narrative, it's a thing of the past, but unfortunately, it's still what people think immediately when they think of Africa and them developing their own technology. They immediately start to doubt and try interrogate
And
it quite.
undermine, yeah, and undermine, yeah.
We have faced that
Yeah,
quite a bit, quite a bit.
yeah. Because like Jamil, to be very honest, like as much as we mentioned earlier, like saying in terms of like the penetration and the awareness of artificial intelligence, Africans are very high literate. Like they're like very extremely like well, like they're educated. Like they tend to go to school a lot. They love trying to study higher professions and they love the professional services. That's what they love the most. Like the finances, your laws, your engineering, they love that. Those are the spaces that they really strive for,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
doctors. So like so in that regard, it's like, yes, they are super intelligent in that capacity, but that does not mean that they can't create. So the upcoming youth like us, I've been in this space for like 9 years building software. Like it's in multiple countries. We've been doing this for a while. So it's one of those things where not only have we have a proven track record, there is evidence. You can go to the site, you can test it out yourself, you can do your own penetration testing, everyone's open. It's an open product. It's on the public domain. So anyone could interrogate it further to say, indeed, was this scaffolded? Was this from existing technology? How is it working? And you can do that for yourselves. So to be very honest, the teams that are sprouting across Africa are far and in between. If you think about it, a lot of the Western companies, in fact, even outsource a lot of the technologies capabilities to Africans. Like there's Nigerian offices, there's Kenyan offices, there's Ugandan offices that are just building software for the West, and then the West just puts a markup on it and then builds further. So it's like truly the workforce, the ones that are building those things are in Africa. The people that are building those things. It's now instead of it being resold to the West and then it's distributed, they're now being the distributor. So that's the only difference. And then that's where the challenge comes is maybe there's a bit of an upsetness to be like, why are you guys distributing? This is the pipeline. We should be the ones distributing. So let's discredit you to maybe create some sort of like mistrust or misguided direction in that capacity. That's a potential. That's just speculation. I have no evidence of that. Yeah.
Right. So I think you do have evidence, though. I think that I want to know what's improved because, like you mentioned, founders. I want to know what's improved because of Hoover exists.
Yeah.
As far as impact, what is better now because you exist?
A
Oh,
lot. But yeah, how much you can go in? Yeah.
I'll take the education and you can take the other bit. Yeah.
The general impact.
So,
So because Uhuru exists, this, as I had mentioned earlier, provides almost something called, we call it an information explosion. It's like a bomb of information that most people who could not have direct access to AI now do. Right? That's something that does not exist. Like people in the villages, in the outskirts, everywhere, they can just consume AI quality content. Yes, maybe it's just a text-based version of it and not like the image and all that stuff. However, that's what we want. We want information, right? Like that's the seek, that's the ask for IT, information technology. That's what it stands for. So the core of any technology is the information distribution and dissemination. And the biggest issues and the biggest game changer was partnering with mobile network operators, and they are helping us distribute these products at scale via text, and people are able to just download and subscribe and just work off it immediately. So in terms of day-to-day life, I would say that is a big change for us. Like that helps a lot of people. being able to consume and understand and ask questions. And then on the education space, we're doing some really great things. We even have a product
Yeah.
called Gray Ed that Monty's going to jump into. It's doing some amazing stuff in Ghana specifically, as well as we've been in North Korea and South America as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
go
So
ahead.
with the education part bit, so we have Gray Ed. It's so I'm dyslexic, right? So I struggled growing up. So I created Gray Ed a few years ago. And then I came and it was to really hyper personalize education because I spend 4 hours a week with my tutor who specializes in dyslexia, and then I spent 7 hours a day at school. But my language processing improved far greater in those 4 hours a week with him than with my 7 hours a day at school. So that showed me, okay, when you personalize the education experience for a student, they can take in more in less time. So that's what we're doing with Gray Air. So we actually look at the personality of the student. And then now with teachers, they spend like, 10, I mean, teachers here spend 2 days on lesson planning, by the way, 2 full days. And that's a time consuming. So what we did is we created also assist teachers with personalizing the lesson plan, but also cutting it down by 98% in terms of the time spent there. So we rolled out Gray Ed and, when in Ghana, we're across 22 schools. In Ghana, we're training teachers as well. We're trained 300. There's another 400 to be trained as well. There were in
All
South
powered by
Africa.
Uhuru, by the way. This is all
Yeah,
powered
this
by
is all
Uhuru's
power.
engine. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in South Africa, we're rolling out across multiple schools there. Primary schools are starting there. We're even now about to partner with another NGO based in South Africa, where now it's gonna be close to 100 schools in South Africa across the provinces. And then here in Botswana, there's a specific school which we like using because it had the biggest impact there. Their pass rate was 61% in 2023. And then in 2024, their pass rate was 67%. And we joined them. So they take their examination end of year December. So we joined them in October 2024. So their pass rate in 2025 was 83%. So a huge jump between the previous year. And this is
Yeah.
what,
Yeah. From
60%
67 to
success.
83. Yeah.
Yeah, 16% jump. That's in 1 year of implementation at low cost. Because there was a public school in a village that only got internet at the school last year, October, by the way. That's when they're actually so they've been using WhatsApp or going to the Kotla, which is like where the town hall would be like, the equivalent, where there's free internet. So they would go there, make their lesson planning and everything. So that's been the hugest impact across education. Helping public schools, whether it's rural, urban areas, jump because our failure rate for the past 10 years is at 70% average for high school. So we're trying to flip that. It's way too high.
So it sounds like the impact is real and it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, what I found, and I'm glad you're working on it. And what I found though is like, if it's easy, everybody's going to do it, right?
Yeah. And
So
it's not.
you had to have faced constraints and challenges. And so, what's the biggest constraint that you faced, and how did you battle test that constraint? And then what you did when you did it, what almost broke, what made you kept going too?
Honestly, and I think Monty will also concur with us, is our GPUs. Oh my God. Those things, those things are expensive as I have no idea. Like it is just so expensive. And like they billing you on like a minute basis. But at the time and still right now, there isn't a viable solution. And as co-founder mentioned earlier, Strive with Cassava is trying to set up in Africa to partner with NVIDIA and roll out more affordable GPUs for LLM training and sovereign AI.
Yeah, I'd say that's one of our biggest. I mean that, and the data collection,
Oh yes, of course.
another
Of
big
course.
one.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Those
I
are the
mean,
those are the cost drivers.
yeah,
Big.
because this data is manual, remember? So
Mm,
you have to be there physically to collect it.
mm.
These many boxes. Yeah, you have to get, and then you have to digitize it. And,
Mm.
it's not the same as, writing a script to scrape the internet and, and it
Yeah,
can
a
work
Python
overnight.
script that will just do it and you leave and you come back later and all your stuff is done. It's not,
Yeah,
it's
I know it's
very,
not that at all. This is,
and
oh,
then,
we need logistics and
and
everything
then
to actually collect
sorting
all
and
this data,
yeah,
fight with government officials in regards to accessing the data, so
yeah,
it's quite a bit, yeah.
yeah,
The data collection and the GPUs
yeah.
compute
Yeah, those
cost,
are
yeah.
like, yeah. I think those two things could stop anyone from even,
Yeah,
it's like setting up a bank and then trying to put ATMs up. Like the cost of that is just like holy sand. Like I have to get a network of ATMs across this region and it has to cover a very good portion of it. So we're like, we need to get enough data that covers a good portion of use cases so that anyone who asks, it's giving you accurate data and making it more relevant than what you'd get on a chat GPT. So those are the kind of like it's expensive. I would just tell you that for
yeah,
free.
you'd understand if someone stopped. Like it would make sense. You'd
Yeah,
call
yeah,
them
yeah.
sane.
Yeah.
You'd
If
call
someone
them
gave up,
sane.
I'll be like, I understand.
Yeah, there's a sane person here. Yeah,
So why don't you stop?
It's our passion.
yeah.
It's our calling, to be honest.
It's too
We're trying to
simple.
impact 1 billion lives, so that we have to.
And we have no choice. We have no choice.
Yeah.
We're at risk of being digitally colonized,
Yeah.
like a huge risk, across the area. I mean, that's why biodiversity as well, we started with the specialized model there because they were very close to being fully digitally colonized, in terms of even just control. If the GPUs sit outside the AI data centers and we're here and we're using them, if they turn off the data center there, or for us, then we have nothing. There's nothing we can do. We,
Yeah.
we, we don't have any GPUs to use. So what? It's like having your power station, the nation's power station, in
In another
another
country.
continent, and you don't own it, but it's giving you electricity. So you're not in control. They
And
can turn off
and
whenever they
anytime they
want.
want to strong
You
arm you,
upset
they
them.
can
Yeah. You
turn
upset
it
them,
off.
they just turn it off, and they want something from you can't fight, they'll just turn it off. So because of that, our long-term plan is also to have AI data centers, convert these data centers here to AI data centers because we have no choice.
Mhm.
We're at risk of being controlled.
Mhm.
So it sounds like you worked really hard. Um,
Yes.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so you worked on the distribution, but what you want is the adoption. And as we know, distribution and adoption are not the same thing, right? So I would
Hmm.
think that you want people to be repeat users, and so instead of just one-time users to say, "Hey, hey, I tried it." You want people to be repeated users and have retention and everything. So how do you get them? How do you get them there? Make
Yeah.
So
sure
this
they're retained users.
Yeah, I know Monty has a great answer for this as well. But currently, what we're doing, right, is there's a lot of A/B testing that we try out, like, how the AI responds, like, is it quirky, what memory looks like. We add, like, we tweak and tailor different news products, like, okay, this is working, this isn't working. But what we find is if it's useful, people will stay. Let me give you context. Right now, as much as it may not be wide news, but because we are like on the top of it, a lot of people are leaving ChatGPT to go to like Claude or any other tool. Like a lot of people, like in droves, but it's not being communicated or mentioned. Um, and that's it can easily disappear like a Nokia. It can disappear like a Kodak in the sense that just because it was leading doesn't mean it will always be number one, right? Like if you produce and provide consistent, great quality and steadiness and predictability, people are going to stay there. Like they're going to move. Like it's just what it is. If something comes along and it's great and it's consistently great, like for a period of time, the way this ecosystem and landscape is always shifting, who knows? In the next 3 months, Uhuru will be number one across the planet, and everyone is using it for that period of time for whatever the use case is that's it's propelling in. So those are the kind of things that we're doing, and we're also working on something called Helios. It's obviously been announced. I don't know if Monty would be okay with me sharing this, but basically, what would happen is you'll be navigating in your website, and it's like when you're with IT support and you share your screen, and then it like helps you do stuff, it will be able to talk to you and be like, oh no, click this or set this up. If you want your email set up, click here. Like it helps with a lot of boomers and like older age people. It has like this sort of assistant in your local language as well, and it can like you can do anything pretty much. All these sites that you have to get on, like some technical explanation gets sent by the AI saying you need to install this driver and this driver and this driver. And you're like, oh my God, I have to do these steps. And then you have to keep coming back. Now it's like, let me follow you and help you do those steps. So I'm gonna put the URL in, you press the URL, like, oh, you see that bar there? Click that, open this up, send this out, just like that, and you go through it.
Yeah. Uh,
So yeah.
and it's important because the context is Africans are very skeptical people.
Yeah.
So I know that Claude has the computer use thing, but no, I know I can guarantee they're not going to be allowing AI
Yeah.
to take
They're not
control
gonna
of
let the
their
computer.
computer. That's not going to happen. So it's at all. Already they just don't trust digital things. So it having full control is not going to happen. That's why credit card payments are very low volume across the continent because people the moment they input their credit card on their computer, they think it's gone. So
Yes.
like now it's everyone has it. That's what they're thinking. So what I found is
Smart.
when you educate them, they actually stay. Because you as the person who's creating these things, you have all these ideas and everything that you're like, oh, I think they're gonna use it. But now the user is seeing this thing for the first time and they don't even know what it is. They just know that if I say hi, it's gonna say hi back. That's and they're like, oh, I can use this to write a report. No, you have to actually tell the user you can use this to write a report. Then it's like, oh, okay. But they all know now you can also do a business plan with it. So you have to tell them, oh, you can also do a business plan. Oh, okay, okay. But now they don't know that they can use it to, make a tender document. So you have to
Mm,
tell them, oh, you can also do it. So it's educating them and telling them what they can actually do with this because
true.
when they don't know, they won't think about it because they're not in the industry, so they don't actually know how the technology works. To them, they just see
Mm,
this interface that I can talk to and it talks back to me, and I tell it to do this and it actually gives it back to me. But in terms of now thinking, oh, what could it possibly not do, and let me test it, they won't be thinking that. So it's about really educating the people on it, and we've found that that's kept them here.
And everybody talks about getting the next 100 million users, right? So let's talk about like what that actually means. I don't mean like technically, like I mean like so people like to talk about scale and you know what makes it what has to be true for you guys to deserve to have access that level of reach. What why would you have to look back and say I deserve the 100 million users? What has to be true?
To be honest, and this may be a controversial take, I don't think anyone deserves anything, right? Like, as in truly, genuinely, I don't. I think um, it's all on merit. Like, obviously, if you're doing great things, people will follow and come, but also your location, your geographic location. Like, if me and Monty were to do this exact same thing in the US, we'd probably be a unicorn by like last week. Like, it's just based
Yeah.
on where we are right now. It's a lot more grinding gears, a lot more slower in turning. The trust equity
Give
of
an
an
example.
African startup, yeah, like the trust equity of an African startup is a bit lower, and it's like the scale of that is not like the best. So the just micro things that create that resistance. So what you have to do as a founder that's in an environment like that is identify partners that can help you do that distribution, that scale, that first 100,000 in the most minimal viable expense. Because we're always here trying to cut costs. As startups in Africa, we're always trying to cut costs because capital is not readily available. There's not a VC sitting there saying, "Hey, my son, I love you. Here's $1 million." Like no one's just throwing that at you. Like it is
One
an
company
extremely argue. Yeah,
in the
one
past
company.
5 years in Botswana,
Yeah,
one
and
company in the past 5 years
you
received
see,
outside funding.
and that funding was like 400,000 pula, like $50,000. It wasn't like some huge amount of capital, right?
Yeah.
And some of them have maybe I think the highest was like 100,000. I've never seen anything more than $100,000 being issued
Mm.
to a bots company. But that's just the context, right? And obviously our economy is smaller. We're 2 million people, but Singapore is about it's a small economy in terms of number of people, not in terms of GDP. But like they're able to raise way more than that. And that's because the capital in Africa is tighter fisted. It's where's your MVP? Where's your proof of concept?
More
By the
chance.
time you're getting paid, you don't need to get paid. Like by the time they want to invest in you, you don't actually need the funding anymore. We literally build end-to-end systems with security, with proof of concepts, with GD, and still don't get the funding as easily as the West do. And like that is like that's a very, very sticky issue in terms of like the scalability of a product to get that first 100,000 users. So we sweat for our users. We literally like if you have 100,000 users and you're in an African startup, man,
Yeah,
like
you
you'd
can't.
have times 10, 20, or times 100 in a Western country with the same model. So yeah,
Yeah, your customer acquisition cost is higher
very, very
here,
high.
uh,
Very.
relative to outside because yeah, people just, I mean, just in our country, to get them to use technology is a mission and a
Mm.
half. It requires workshops, it requires training, and then once they're on board, they do. So in here, what spreads is those who are partnering with MNOs. That's what spreads. When you look at the startups that have
100.
really boomed across the continent,
Yeah, yeah.
it's the
All of
ones
them
that
have
have
MNO
partnered
partners.
with
All of
MNO
them.
partners.
All of
It's
them.
not word by mouth. It's very different landscape. So to get the 100 million users is you need to partner with the MNO because
Mm.
that's been the formula
Mm.
here on the continent. When you analyze how these startups have really, really scaled,
Bro. And this is Fluttwave, this is M-Pesa, all of them. It's they're partnered in
all of
MNO in some shape or form. If you're an M-Pesa, if you're a Fluttwave, if you're any startup and you want to get 100 million users in Africa, there's a 90% chance you need to get in with an MNO. I don't know any,
I don't know any.
literally, I don't know any. There's none that have 100 million users that are not with an MNO. Like none. I do not know any.
I can't name them.
Yeah.
So if you and I are sitting here, you a year or 2 years from now, and I asked you, what will have had to have happened in order for 100 million users, you would tell me we partner with MNOs.
Yes. And yeah, and that's what we're doing. Hence the data product, being able to consume it, and distribution is
The
instant.
first AI
Like
bundles.
imagine every week we can guarantee you'll get an SMS about Uhuru, like without us even being there. Like it's top of mind all the time. It's free marketing. Like it costs the MNO nothing because they're also getting an equity stake in it. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
So the hardest truth that people that about Uhuru that people wouldn't say publicly. What would you say that is?
The hardest truth,
Yeah.
yeah, you won't get successful if you don't have a partner that can help you with distribution and scale. Truly. And like, yes, it could be an MNO, maybe even an ISP. Maybe if Starlink one day de decides to be a virtual MNO and then it can distribute it via like, I don't know, like iMessenger messages or something like that. That could be a potential. But basically whoever connects connectivity on your phone, and that's our main consumption, like the phone, whoever handles conversations or communication between devices, that is whatever it is, whether it's an MNO, whether it's a Starlink, whether it's a new form of technology with Bluetooth, whatever it is, whoever manages that and dominates this industry, those are the people that distribution who has the largest number. Because
I mean,
yeah,
I'll give an example of like why they're important. For the first time ever, Africa hosted the G20 last year, right? In November. And me and Tabu were invited to speak there.
mm,
And we presented Uhuru and we presented it as this what we're presenting it here. And the support that we got was tremendous because now we saw it as this tool that can solve our problems for the continent, but they saw it as this pan-African technology that it
savior.
can, yeah, that's there to really push the continent and give people, the ones who don't know how, the hows, and in order to have the fastest ever human development in history. That's how they saw it. Because they saw it as we get to keep our data within the continent. 80% of African data is outside the continent right now. Now we get to keep it within. They saw it as this intelligence that we get to spread to people, and they can, turn their villages into towns and their towns into cities. That's how they saw it, and it's built on homegrown data for the problems that are faced here on the continent. So now it got all that excitement and everything. But when you look at the traction, the growth from there, it's not we did get a couple of quite a number of new users, but it still doesn't match the WhatsApp growth. So it's very different environment here, and that's just the truth of the matter. We can't take Silicon Valley concepts and just plug them here. It won't work. You'll raise the money, but your startup won't survive 5 years.
100%. And like if there is no MNO play, or at least a distribution partner play,
Some banking
it's just
partner.
your success rate is just lower. Another thing is, but I don't think a lot of VCs are interested in this. But if there's a government play where the government says like we're going to endorse this product and then mandate it to be utilized like that, I'm sure that works anyway. Like in Starlink, Tesla, the rebates and things, like it works anyway. But that would be another play. But that's just a lot harder. And MNO is safe, it's private, it's scalable, and it's just very, very hard to get in. Like
Yeah.
very, very hard. Like it is so hard.
Months
Months
of
and like
back and forth.
8+ months of just talking, and then another 8+ months of integration.
Yeah.
Well, what you share with me today has been a fascinating journey and topic, and I think it's very interesting. And because what you shared is the part that nobody ever puts in the pitch deck. What stood out in this conversation wasn't the technology, it was the constraints. Because when you're building an environment with limited infrastructure, expensive data, and fragmented systems, you don't get to build for hype. You build for what actually works. And that changes everything, because most of the AI conversation today is happening from the top down. But what we heard here is the opposite. Bottom up, built around real usage, real limitations, and real needs. And when you look at it that way, you start to realize something important. The future of this technology won't be decided by who has the best model. It will be decided by those who can make it usable in the hardest conditions. That's the real signal.